Next up, we have Javier Minguez, who is the CSO and CTO of Bitbrain Technologies. He holds a PhD in computer science. He's a professor. He's a founder of the Neurotechnology Research Group. He has a ridiculous number of awards. I can't even begin to go through that. He's research publications and patents in various areas of neuroscience. Very impressive, and welcome.
Thank you very much. So thank you very much. So I'm Professor Minguez. I teach in the University Neuroscience and Neurotechnology, and I'm co-founder also of Bitbrain Technologies. It's a Spanish company that was born with the objective to bring neurotechnology into the market research arena. So first of all, I would like also, even though the previous speaker also did it, but they're backwards. Can you guys try to fix this, please? Okay, so this is the current trend that is in neuroscience and in brands. Thanks to the Green Book, we know now that 11% of the brands use neuroscience and 12% of the suppliers, which is a lot. And this year is also under consideration that 27% of the brands and the market research supplier are considering to introduce neuroscience. But for me, the most important thing is that they also think that there are two main barriers for this neuroscience penetrating this market research. The first one is complexity. It's true, neuroscience is complex, and we spend many, many years studying it. And the second one is to understand the value that this neuroscience really have in this industry. So for this, I will take a model that was created 40 years ago by Professor Pierre Baumann, and is very, very well known in neuroscience, that, for example, one of the primary things that I think it's important for market achieve, which is emotion, and the way that what we need to really understand what's emotion. So here we describe three main aspects. The first one, if you want to understand what's the emotion of a subject, please ask him. And here in market research, we have many methodologies to do this. We have surveys, focus group, many, many things. The second way to do it is to observe him. And then you can record and after try to infer what's the emotion that he's feeling. But also we have many, many people trained that you already use this in focus group and in the interviews. And the third thing is you measure in the brain. In the brain or in the body, and you measure the response of the body. This is called neuropsychophysiology, okay? And which one is better? Well, there is not which one better than the other. The thing is that they are completely complementary. And if you want to build an integrative view of what's emotion or other cognitive states that are of value for the industry, you need to do the three. And basically, if we focus on the third one, which is in the measure of neuroscience, neuroscience will tell you what is happening. For example, when you see an advertisement or something, it has more impact, more emotional engagement or things, but it will never tell you why. And the why, you can very, very nicely get this insight with these other three techniques here. I'm going to put you two examples. Can we run the video, please? So this is a TV ad. It's a typical neuroimage study. We use some biometrics as EEG technology. Before. We go before and we run it again, please. We can go the slide before and run it again, please.
Yes.
Okay, so this study is neuroimage, EEG technology, some biometrics, 40 participants, 20 males, 20 females, and here for the coding of the emotion we use computational models. It's one of the trends that we have today in neuroscience. In the figure on the top you see the engagement, it's this yellow line. The maximum engagement that you want is also the best thing, and then you have the emotion, which is blue is negative, red is positive, the higher the best. Usually in advertisement, what you want to do is to generate the maximum impact possible with the maximum positivity possible. Why? Because at the end of the advertisement, you have the exposure of the brand, and you want to transfer all this positivity to the brand. So by using these techniques, you can see very nice how there are 8 seconds by the end of the advertisement that they are completely neutral in terms of emotion. So they completely don't add. So then you can remove this, you are saving a lot of investment there, and secondly, you are increasing the probabilities to transfer all this positivity to the brand. Okay, so this is very nice. One example. So here there is another example, completely different. This is retail. So here is biometrics and eye tracker technology, and the recruitment was done in the store. Okay, so here there was a problem in this store. There were some shelves that were not working, and they wanted to understand why. So in this study, usually when you are dealing with shelf in the store, you want to generate, in this case to the woman, the maximum emotional impact possible, with the maximum pleasure possible, with the less stress possible. Okay? So then we performed this study, and it turns out that the shells that were not working, actually they were generating them at high levels of stress in the women. And after, by correlating this with eye tracker and other traditional techniques of market research, we understood that there were some usability problems here. They were fixed in working with the designers, and they were re-implemented in this store in Madrid. So there are types of insight that we are using. And however, if we look at again to the GRID report this year, they signal two things that I think is very relevant. The first one, they signal that one of the most relevant things for the industry would be the sensors. In combination with big data and predictive analysis, we're able to make, we market researchers, more predictive predictions. That's our reporting methods. And the second thing is that they write that there is a problem of understanding which of these techniques they don't work, they were scientifically grounded, they are not scientifically grounded. But at the end of the day, for me, it's more important to understand that if we don't see the value of this in the real world, they will never work. So we need to put this in value, okay? So let's go for the first one. Regarding the sensors, whatever application that you want to design in neurotechnology, it always has 4 steps. You need to build the sensors, the data analysis. After you build the metrics that are of value, and after there is what we call the expert of the domain that interprets this information. For example, when it comes to health, then I have the sensors that could be, I don't know, the electrocardiogram, then I build my data analysis, for example, heart rate variability, then I build the metrics, which would be, if you have this variability, you have this percentage of having this problem in the heart, and after you have the interpretation here, which is the doctor taking the interpretation. So here in market research, then we have also the sensor, that is biometric, EEG, eye tracker, data analysis. After we build the metrics, for example, this percentage of emotion, and after market research, put it in context. Perfect. So today I'll be talking about sensors, and I will let data analysis and metrics, because I'm more related with computational models, big data, stuff like this, for the occasion. Sensors. Do we need, so 3 questions that are always posed with the sensors and biometrics or technologies. The first one is, do we need accurate sensors for this market? Second, how many sensors do we need? There are a lot of them. You have brain reading, you have heart rate, you have a lot of them. And the third one is that we need wearable. And recall that my talk today is about wearables. So the first one is, do we need an accurate sensor? And the answer is, that depends if you think that this application is critical. When it comes to health, it is a very critical application. You go to the sensor and you want to have the best electrocardiogram here, to estimate the better my heart rate variability, to estimate the better my probability to have this illness, for the doctor to get the best accurate decision. So in market research is the same thing. I understand that it's very difficult to understand when a sensor is good or not. Even in our research laboratories, it takes a lot of effort to understand when a sensor is very accurate or not. But there are 2 hints here. The first one is you have, at least in Europe, we have, and I think here also, very strict standards. And when the sensor does not follow standards, I mean, you need straightforward to discard them. And secondly, usually research is funded to understand whether the sensors are accurate or not. Okay, so go to literature is also a very positive here. So second is, do we need 1 or more sensors? So it very depends on what you want to measure or what you want to estimate. So I would say that today here, if you ask me to estimate the time, I will need 1 sensor, which is my clock. If I need to estimate the temperature of this room over time, then I need 2 sensors, 1 for temperature, another the clock. For here in psychophysiology, it's the same thing. For example, you would say, I would like to estimate the emotional engagement of this advertisement. Then literature and science is very well known. We have electrodermal activity that, combined with computational models, is a very good estimator of this emotional engagement. So I don't need heart rate and other stuff. Even though if I add heart rate, for example, I made the problem much more difficult, because I'm asking my data analysis to say, hey, discard the heart rate because it's not accurate to estimate what I want. Okay? So the answer to this is that usually the large majority of things that at least in the large majority of contexts where we use neuroimage in market research, with 3 sensors you have the large majority of the things solved, which is eye tracker technology for visual attention. Secondly is we need brain scanning for emotion and accurate of attention and workload. And finally we need electrodermal activity for impact or emotional engagement. And finally, more important, do we need a wearable sensor for this market? So here it comes 3 words here. The first one is it depends on cost. The second is very important, the ecology. And third is very important, the scenario. Let's go through these things together. So on top of this image, we have, in my opinion, a breakthrough that we did in Europe 2 years ago. It's a company in Netherlands. They built this brain scanner. And well, I had the opportunity to evaluate in my research activity, and it's very, very highly accurate, very, very good one. Below, you have one technology developed for market research. It's completely different. It's dry electrode technology, and it's being evaluated in 3 research labs right now in Europe. Okay? So apart from which one is more accurate or not, the important for here is what about costs of this? The first one, if you want to manipulate the one that is on top of this, you need to hire neuroscience people. I mean, it's like this. You need to hire neuroscience people. Second, you need a laboratory to have all this instrumentation and found this. More important, third, at least in my lab, usually we work 1 hour per participant, 40 hours net per participant. It would be impossible in my lab in the university or in the company to make the setup of this technology in less than 20 minutes. I need this to do it correctly. So I only have 20 minutes to work with the participant. When it comes to this type of wearable technology, in 2-3 minutes you are on the fly with the Javier. So you save a lot of execution time. And finally, there is also a cost in participants, because even though you are facing the same study, when it comes to the person that has to come, it's not the same when you are inviting him to participate in the one on top and in the one below here. So this also is a cost there. Secondly, it's ecology. In neuroscience, we call ecology, or an ecological experiment, which is very, very close to the real situation that you want to evaluate. And it's a complete fight in the laboratories to make them more ecological, the experiment. So here, the ecology is very important in market research. For example, here on the left, you have this technology, and we were studying some motor behavior. So here is not important, the ecology, because we want just to understand something that happens in the brain when the person walks. And you don't really need to have an ecological scenario here. But what about when we evaluate a product? What about when we evaluate an advertisement? There, yes. And it's very important, not only in the laboratory, but when you want to put the things out of the lab. And when it comes to put the things out of the lab, then it turns out that it's not possible with this existing technology. A couple of examples. On the left, I will talk a little bit more about this later, but this is an experience that we did in a museum, and the client, it was very important to have an ecological condition and had the subjects in the exposition trying to feel the motions of this exposition here. And secondly, in this other study, we did the recruitment in the store. So believe me, it would be completely impossible to afford one woman in this store and tell I'm going to put this helmet here with this technology here. Very complicated here. So this, I think, would be one of the things that would open wearable, to afford these type of scenarios in very ecological conditions. So then when it comes to the second one, it's how would we make these results valuable for the industry. So here, as my talk was more about what we can obtain with wearables, I have decided to show you some representations that we are able to build today with this wearable technology instead of going to a list of results. So this study was beautiful. It was executed a couple of months ago. So it was funded by Obra Social de la Caixa. It's, I don't know how to say in English, but the mission is to do these things for the people. You might understand what it means. So they took the Louvre collection from Paris, and they are going from city to city to city. So they wanted to have a baseline of the motions of many, many things, and they wanted to have them quantified, because they told very clear to the team, what you are not able to measure, you are not able to improve. So they wanted numbers. And so we were in the team with other people that do traditional research, and they wanted to evaluate a lot of things, to have a baseline, and after when they moved to Madrid or to Barcelona, improve, and after to improve, and after to improve. And the questions were about general questions about the exposition, but also about the pieces, because even though when they build these expositions, for example, let's say that they have 500 of pieces, but they have to select 200 or something like this. But after they can change a little bit in the next one, they can change a little bit in the next one. So they wanted to try which one and generating more emotional engagement to the people. The design also they wanted to improve the experience, whether the audio guides were working or not, many, many things. Everything quantified from a neuroscience point of view in terms of emotion here. So can we run the video, please? So, and if it's possible, is there somebody that would be able to click? Yes. Can you put it in the center of the video, please? In the center, just in the center. Well, it's not relevant. So the thing is, this is, for example, one of the representations that we use for one subject. Here, what you have on the top is the global dynamics of the motion. You see it's increasing, so it's very good because there is creating a more emotional engagement in the subject. The peaks that you see is specific events that have generated impact. Okay. Then what you can see below is the plane of the museum. So you can see exactly where the person located it in. And what you see there is also we have this eye tracker technology, and we are decoding at the same time the word the person is watching every time, what the person is feeling below. So you have a perfect correlation of between what is watching the piece of where it's located, plus the emotional engagement decoded here. So, and then, can we go to the next video, please? Then, to answer all these questions related to the emotion, it would be, we thought that it would be a very good idea if we could, the only way to do it, you can run it if you want to, it would be to try to build the landscape of emotion and say, like, let's take all the subjects, let's aggregate all together, and let's try to build all the landscape. Yes, so this is what it happened in the museum while people was walking around and trying to see. The participants were recruited in the door of the museum, okay? So by using this type of representation, after it's very easy to build the metrics because you have all the pieces are located here. You have the rooms, you have everything what is needed here. And the red is the more emotional engagement that generates in this area. The green, the less one here. So can we go to the first one, please? Okay. So by using this type of representations plus other representations, I can do this by myself. Well, and many other type of representation, we were able to tag the emotional engagement of EVPs or the museum, the mummies versus other types of pieces, whether audio guides yes, audio guides not, and many, many other stuff. So now we are going to use this benchmark to improve, obviously, and yeah, many other representations here. So just to conclude, I would like to make my point in two things. The first one is that as far as I see neuroscience and more specific neuroimage technique or biometric techniques is that today we have very good methods for doing market research, and in my opinion, biometric is just another layer of information. It would tell you what is happening, this emotion, this piece here is generating a lot of engagement, but it will never tell you why this is happening. Okay, and this is very dependent on the subject, the person, the concept, many, many other things that we can have this access to information to with these methodologies. And wearable technology, the only thing that I would do for this market, it would be that we will be able to access scenarios in very ecological conditions that we were not able to do it before. Okay? So, Andon, thank you very much for your attention. And if you are interested, I have one of these technologies here in my booth. Thank you very much for your attention.